That's all right. Hey, pull your glasses back up some.
No, I have to read.
Okay.
Welcome. Today we are in the garden preparing for a wonderful array of fall gardening activities. But before we introduce our guest, I would like to review some of the fall gardening activities that will be occurring in the month of October. First, we have our Plant Fest, which is one of the fundraisers that support the Master Gardeners' horticultural education activities. It will be this Saturday, October the 3rd from 8 to 3 on Coliseum Road. For a list of the children's workshop activities that are going to happen, reference our Facebook page. Plant Fest will provide from 9 to 10 a herbal bath salt workshop, from 10:30 to 11:30 Halloween or harvest hats, and from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock plant terrariums. All of these activities, as you know, support our outreach programs. As a nonprofit, we put on this television show, AOC. We run the Junior Master Gardener program. We run the School Garden Initiative. We help landscape the Habitat for Humanity homes. We provide gardening talks and educational talks to the community. Your support of our activities has been phenomenal. So come to the Plant Fest this Saturday from 8 to 3, a new location. It's going to be on Coliseum Road and St. Landry, a little further north than the previous location. Next is October the 10th, which is also a Saturday, our plant swap. 9 o'clock sign in, 9:30 the plant swap. We have trading before and after the formal swap. We ask you for the swap to only bring one rooted plant per person. For the trading, you can haul as many things as you want in a wagon. That's at the R. Nelson Horticulture Center in our demo garden. October the 14th at 6 o'clock p.m., Felder Rushing, who's a retired Mississippi Extension agent and the author of many gardening books, will be speaking at 6 o'clock p.m. at our meeting. Seating will be limited. He is a very popular, funny, knowledgeable gardening speaker. So get there and secure a seat. October the 17th is our third Saturday gardening talk. Brock Barker, who is a UL horticultural graduate, will be talking about permaculture, which he practices on his farm, the Broccoli Center. That will be at 10 o'clock at the demo garden. Our speaker is having a fall festival Saturday, October the 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at All Seasons, and they have a list of activities. You can go on their website, which is BUY All Seasons, and reference those, just a whole slew of activities too. And we are delighted today to have with us the horticulturist and proprietor of All Seasons, Peter Mayu. Peter,
glad to be here
welcome.
today.
And today we are going to be talking about fall color in the garden. After the miserable spring we all had, we are looking for some color and some fun in the garden.
Yeah, there's a lot of pinned up demand for gardeners because really y'all didn't have an opportunity this spring with all the rain, and then it just got dry and it got really hot. But what most people don't know is fall is an excellent time of year to plant, especially if you're not big on watering. These plants basically get acclimated all during the fall and winter months, so you get a much better result during the spring. So, and you do want to do your semi-annual maintenance in the fall as well, as far as winterizing your plants. This is probably one of the best things that you can do to boost up their immunity, help them root out, and then help them differentiate their vegetative buds to floral buds.
Well, now, how do you like to winterize?
Well, basically, September, you're looking for the temperatures to cool off. You're looking for like in the 60s at night. And then we use a fertile product called Winterizer. And basically, you do it to your grass, you do it to your trees, shrubs. And these things will be very proactive. And you'll see a lot of the benefits the following season.
So that takes care of winterization. Now, it's hard to imagine because we know that we're going to have temperatures in the high 80s if the weatherman's right next week. But these plants that you brought today are going to take from the 80s to the 20s.
Yeah, all these are going to be great as far as giving you fall color, and you can plant them now. Still too early for pansies. With pansies, you're looking for 65 degrees or lower nighttime temperatures. To plant them now would be a mistake, and they're not going to be sustainable.
And
so middle October is what you're looking for with pansies.
And all of these plants, surprisingly, are heat tolerant as well as cold.
Marigolds, tough to beat, very beautiful. They come in a lot of different fall colors. If you're a novice gardener, this is an excellent plant to choose. When you plant them, basically you want to take them out of their 4-inch, basically root prune them, because they're being confined to this container. So just break up the roots, put some Osmocote, about 30 bb's plus or minus 10, you can't burn it, put it directly in the hole and when you install the plant. And what you're looking for is watering them every day, every other day, depending on how hot it's going to be. And you're looking for adventitious shoots to start forming from the base. This is an indication that it's rooting out, and you can start laying off on your watering. All the excellent plant materials are snapdragons. These things you can plant now. Not only will they be beautiful in the fall, they're going to be absolutely magnificent in the spring. Same thing with petunias. A lot of people come to buy petunias in the spring because they see the landscapes just inundated with petunias. The trick is planting them in the fall. So you get the benefits of the fall, even if it gets very cold, like in the 20s. It'll look like the plant is kind of declined, like it's not doing well, but as soon as spring breaks, these temperatures, these plants just come alive, they start vegetatively growing, and then they just blow up with blossoms. Hard to beat.
Let's talk a little bit about the spacing of petunias.
Well, once they start getting going, you want to allocate space for them to grow. So I would stagger them in a checkerboard pattern, not too close to the edge of the bed because you don't want them to leave the bed. And you want to go anywhere from 10 to 12 inches. Some of these other heat tolerant ones, the waves, you probably want to give them 12 to 14 inches because they have a tendency to want to grow more horizontal. But petunias are beautiful. A lot of people come buy them late in the spring. That's a mistake unless you're going with some of the wave varieties. But the regular petunias like the Madness, the Dreams, if you plant that in the fall, they're going to be absolutely magnificent in the spring.
And so always the importance of always checking your label for the proper spacing.
Right.
And it also helps you to know, you can calculate mathematically how many plants you need before you make your trip to the nursery.
And these little guys are great. You're going to get 150 to 200 days of blooming for maybe an hour's worth of work. So if you really want to bring those flower beds to life, allocating areas for seasonal colors like this will be excellent. But you'll get the benefits this fall, but also especially in the spring when you're talking about featuring these particular plants.
And we have a great variety of height in these plants.
Absolutely. They come in rockets, which get really tall, sonnets, which are probably one of the most popular as far as the taller varieties, all the way down to floral carpets. The more dwarfer they are, the more they're going to bloom, the more prolific the color. But they really do a good job. Same thing with these, you want to use Osmocote. Now once it starts getting colder, like say late November, December, you might want to hit them with a little bit of blood meal, because what happens is Osmocote becomes unavailable when soil temperatures start dropping below 70. So they're going to need more of a soluble nitrogen, especially pansies, since they're such heavy feeders. They need a lot of nitrogen in order to bloom and do well. And what you're looking for is older yellow leaves. This is an indicator of a lack of nitrogen. So these will be clues to let you know that you need to, throw a little bit of blood meal on the plants during the cold time of the year.
That's an interesting point. And of course, fall would not be fall without mums.
Yeah, mums are definitely it right now. They're going to give you a whole lot of color. A lot of people throw them away after they finish blooming, not knowing that all they have to do is just basically cut them back, plant them in your garden, and they'll come back next year. Now, when you're taking care of these things, you don't really want to water from the top, because what will happen is you're just increasing pathogens, and a lot of times these things are very brittle. They'll actually split in half. You basically want to just water from the bottom. You know, it's no benefit getting the foliage or the blooms wet. You know, the water needs to be on the root system.
Okay, and you briefly mentioned, let's talk a little bit more about cutting them back. That's something that's really hard for gardeners to do when they've got a little bit of color left on the plant.
What's happening is when the bloom's gone, basically everything's going to seed production. So you don't want these plants to mature seeds, because with annuals it kills them, and with perennials it basically takes up a lot of their residual stored food and stops the blooming cycle. So if you can inhibit that or prevent that from happening, the plant will continue to bloom, or it'll keep a higher residual stored food, which will either, you know, you'll get the benefits next year, or it'll keep the plant, you know, in a floral state.
So be hard-hearted. Yes, you are going to cut off some little buds that would eventually open, but it's not in the best interest of your plant.
The biggest mistake I see with gardeners, they do not prune their plants. Even if plants are very dwarf in nature, you should always prune plants, just for the simple fact that you're influencing growth habit. Plants that are pruned, even if you're taking a ½ inch off of them, it influences their growth habit. They stay fat, they stay bushy. You get a whole lot more blooms. If you never prune your plants, especially in the shade, things get leggy, things get sticky, you know.
And you're really sacrificing future color.
Absolutely.
If you don't prune them.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't be talking about fall either without talking about pumpkins.
Pumpkins. We got a host of them. They come, you know, the jack-o'-lanterns, which are so popular, but we also have the cooking pumpkins. We have a lot of gourds and stuff, a lot of unusual ones this year that we haven't seen or haven't had before. Gourds are nice because they're really tough, really thick skin, but they really make a pop really nice as far as decorating a porch or a front entrance. You know, and another thing would be the crotons. Crotons, the Petra has been around forever. This is probably one of the most popular, but since the last 10 years, they've come out with so many different varieties, like the Mammy, which is that more skinnier one. But there's probably maybe 10, 15 different varieties of these guys. Really pretty. If you can keep them from getting in the low 40s, keep them from getting too wet, these things can last for many years. You can bring them inside the house during the winter months. They act as air purifiers. In fact, any living plant acts as an air purifier. The thing is, you want to kind of put it in a west, south, or east window to where it's going to get some kind of light. And just to make sure you don't overwater it, a good litmus test is to put your finger in the soil. If you can get soil to stick to your finger, you got enough moisture in the pot.
So don't overwater it,
don't
because
overwater it.
that will really kill
That's
your
what
indoor.
kills most indoor plants. You know, people forget about them, then they remember, so they feel guilty, they water them when they shouldn't be watered. So it's very hard for a plant to recover after being overwatered.
Now, and these, if you're really not that much into gardening, we are, but we understand that everybody isn't. Many people use the crotons and the pumpkins and the gourds decoratively.
Oh yeah, a few crotons, a couple of pumpkins, it can really add a lot as far as the front entrance. It brings on the season of fall, which is such a fun season with harvest and football and the cooler temperatures.
Because and the colors are so vibrant.
Absolutely.
They're vibrant. Now, as gardeners, some of us are really, really picky, and we want plants that not only look good in our yard, but that provide us with nutrition.
Absolutely.
And are good for our bodies, too.
Absolutely. Muscat greens would be an excellent one as a garnishment or as a health food, just full of antioxidants, very easy to grow as well. The kale, the cabbage, Swiss chard, this is very good as far as the decorative or garnishments. Brussels sprouts, there's a whole venue of different plant materials that you can use. These guys, very, very healthy for you. And you don't have to worry about them freezing or anything. They can take the cold. They do very well.
And
Rosemary's an oldie goldie, been around, very aromatic. People like to cook with this stuff. But for the beginner gardener, this is an excellent plant to choose because it's very tough. It's something that would, lend itself to be very low maintenance.
Okay, this red mustard, we kind of overviewed, and let's talk a little bit specifically. This is going to take the cold.
It will, absolutely.
It's going to be 2 feet by 2 feet. Gorgeous ornamental plant.
Yeah.
And if you haven't eaten it, have you eaten it cooked?
Not recently.
And also, it's great. I love it in a sandwich.
Yeah.
It's got a little horseradish, zing. Any of these, the kales, the chard, if you're cooking with them, you're going to avoid that mid-rib. You're going to use the outer part of the plant. But you can actually pull leaves off of these plants. It's not going to hurt them. The kales
Right.
are used, I'd say, more ornamentally.
Yep.
Except for the little filigree, the red Russian is a better edible.
Yeah.
Better.
Well, kale's becoming very popular with the health food industry. It has a lot of antioxidants. It's a very health food.
And the same thing with the chard. You're not
Right.
going to use the stems, but the stems are what's ornamental.
Right, absolutely. And the foliage, it's a very pretty plant
But
as far as to garnish a dish.
Right. You can actually choose when you walk up to a flat in the bright lights. You've got your choice of the colors.
It makes an impact.
It makes an impact. Gorgeous ornamental, and we've misplaced the cabbage.
Yeah.
But cabbage is really a beautiful ornamental plant,
Absolutely.
as well as being edible.
Yep.
And we have to talk about peppers.
Pepper's very easy to grow for y'all guys that are a little scared of gardening. Also fun, especially to do with the kids and stuff. These little chichilies are probably one of the most popular, but they're very hot. The heat is in the seeds. If you want to kind of tone down the heat, take the seeds out of them. Ornamental peppers, very pretty. They come in a bunch of different varieties. This is the black pearl. Some of them really have some purple looking peppers. Very easy to grow as well. Just a nice plant material, and definitely do a very good job as far as with container growing or featuring them in pots around the front or back porch areas.
And as of all of these plants, there are a great deal of variety in the plant heights,
Oh, absolutely.
the plant spreads, and the plant colors. So you really do have to think about what selections
Peppers
you
come
want.
in many, many different ones, and people have a lot of fun with them, with
Well,
cooking them.
and mums and snap, all of these plants really
Right.
you have a great deal of choice in your selection. And if you're unsure of yourself as a gardener, ask.
Right. Yeah, what you do is you ask for plants that are going to be more tough. That way you become more successful. As you learn more about it, you'll become more courageous on more of the finicky plants. But anybody can garden. All you need is the right plant, the right quality, and the know-how how to do it. Especially y'all veggie growers, amending the soil is very important. We feature a Dr. Earth product, which is an all-organic potting soil. It's great because it's not like a commercial fertilizer. When the plant needs the nutrients, it's available to the plant. It improves the soil structure. It does extremely well. The reviews that we've been getting off of it has been really nice.
And we have another question. I didn't mean to interrupt you. A lot of people in this part of the country have shade issues.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, shade really limits your selection of plants. Sun's a good thing because you can really feature a lot. But if you have a shade garden, basically the dianthus, they'll do pretty good. A lot of the kales will do well. Pansies just not going to bloom for you as much as they would with the sun. Same thing with the snapdragons. You'll get a little bit of blossoms, but they're just not going to perform like they would. They definitely need sun.
What about we talked briefly about the cyclamens?
Cyclamens are excellent, but the thing about them is very cold hardy, but they don't like wet feet at all. So if you're going to plant cyclamen in your garden, you're really going to have to amend that soil. You're probably going to have to use at least 50% of sand. What will work for them won't work for a lot of other plants. So you really got to make sure that plant is well drained.
But they do provide a pop of color
Oh,
in
absolutely.
February.
Especially the hardy boys. They really come in a big old flower. They come in a whole bunch of different colors. Excellent. You can bring them inside the house, use them as tabletops. Really nice, especially like in pots and stuff. But just watch out for the too much watering.
Okay, and you brought a lovely container here.
Container gardens are very popular. We've seen a lot of traction on this the last couple of years. You can really have a lot of fun with this stuff. It's really, you just go in there, put in a whole bunch of different textures. You know, you really want a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. That way, different times of the season, one gives way to the other. Really popular, really brings out, because a lot of people just don't want a lot of flower beds. So what we're seeing is they'll feature these nice pots, and they'll put different venues of plants, and they really look good in relationship to each other.
And you want to use a good quality potting soil.
Absolutely. See,
And what do you recommend? And you are, in a container, you're going for the look. So your
Absolutely.
plants are going to be more crowded
Right.
than in a bed.
what you're looking for, you want something to make an impact. That's usually what we call a thriller. And then you're looking for a filler that's going to transition between that and the spiller. The spiller is something that's actually going to outgrow the pot and basically cascade down. And the filler is basically a contrast between the two textures. You know, it's as much as important how plants look texture-wise in relationship to each other than how they look as an individual. So how you put them together, you know, it's very important to have a distinction in size, texture, and blooming sequence. So, but people have a lot of fun with that, with the container gardening.
Exactly, because one nice thing about a container garden is you can actually try it out 3 or 4 times.
Absolutely.
Before you plant it. You can take your little pots, arrange them, step back 4 or 5 feet and say, I don't know, maybe I
And
can
every
do better.
season, you can try different things. You know, there's such a variety of plants.
And take pictures of the ones you like if you want to repeat one. That's always fun to do. So we have covered an array of gardening materials. And we have a few more pointers for you to discuss about, you know, we are moving toward winter,
Right.
about getting prepared. You know, in gardening, we're always on a seesaw.
Absolutely.
You know, we're always on a seesaw. You're going to come to the point in November where you have to rip out the last of those little begonias and those impatiens
Right.
that have hung in there through this miserable gardening season.
Yep.
But you have to do it.
You have to. Once November rolls around, you really should start thinking pansies. Pansies are fantastic. They can take up to 10-degree temperatures. The colder it is, the better it is. You know, so if you're going to be planting in mid-October, November, and you want some color, really does a good job. They come in many different varieties, different sizes. There's the Majestics that have the big flower with the splotch. There's the Crystal Bowls that has basically a clear color. These bloom a lot more prolific than the others, even though the blooms are smaller. You know, violas are also
Your
fantastic.
impact, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The color, you know, colors what sells.
And that's what's strange to little people. You would think that the bigger one would give you more impact, but the solidness of the little violas
Yep.
and the crystals gives you a much more visual
Yep.
impact.
And it blooms more prolific as well.
Right, it repeats blooms. So in November, you'll have some choices to make. Just remember
Right.
that those those impatiens and begonias are going to go. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing as, you know, cutting back. Rip them up, put them in your compost pile.
And pansies, they'll get you all the way through pretty much April, depending on nighttime temperatures. Once those prevailing nighttime temperatures start getting above 65 degrees, you're gonna lose them.
But then it's time for our spring.
Yeah.
Right, it's time
And
for our
you start planting
spring.
periwinkle, and that'll get you all the way to November. So if you want to stick with those two types of plants, you'll have year-round color, whether it's 10 degrees or 110 degrees.
Right, and you mentioned that this was a good time of year to be looking for scale in your garden, too.
Absolutely. These are when the scales, a lot of times when we see them, they're basically in their armor or their soft form, either on the branches or underneath the leaves. But right now, in late September, October, they become crawlers. So they actually leave their containers and they start moving around the branches. This is the time to blast them, because scale is very hard to treat. So using a malathion or other type of metaclopin, some type of systemic will do a very good job as far as cutting this out. Also, ultrafine oils, what they make now, you really don't have to worry about the heat or time of the year. You don't have to worry about burning them. So basically what it does is you inundate the plant, it smothers them, and it kills them.
Well, we have been given enough information It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you much for being with
Oh,
us.
thank you, Ms. Shea.
This will ensure gardeners of success in their garden, which is what your and our work is both about, is having you have a successful garden and love gardening as much as we all do. Remember, this Saturday is our Plant Fest on Coliseum Road from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Children's activities at 9 o'clock, 10:30, and 12 o'clock. October the 10th is the plant swap at 9:30 at the R. Nelson Center. October the 14th, Felder Rushing speaks at the main library at 6 o'clock p.m. October the 17th is Brock Barker speaking on permaculture at our demo garden. And October the 24th from 10 to 3 is the Fall Festival at